Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into the genetics, the blueprint behind a whole flavor movement. We're not just looking at one product here. We're examining the DNA, you could say, of a global shift in taste. We are diving deep into the gelato cannabis lineage and specifically how this one cross really set the stage for pretty much everything creamy, gassy, dessert-like you've probably tried in the last, decade?
It truly is the genetic blueprint. Yeah, the source material we looked at, it confirms gelato wasn't just, another popular strain. It really built the foundation for that whole dessert and candy gas thing that, well, it dominates what people look for globally now. So our mission today is kind of unpack how that original formula, made almost 10 years ago, is still dictating what's hot right now.
Okay, yeah, let's trace it back. Every story has a start. So, gelato. Where's it begin? Bay Area, right? Around 2014, under the Cookies Fam umbrella.
That's the spot. Bay Area, 2014, Cookies Fam. And the core formula, the cross itself, is Sunset Sherbet times Thin Mint Girl Scout cookies. But what's really key here, it wasn't just smashing two sweet parents together. This cross, it seems, was designed for balance. Sherbet brings that creamy, sweet, kind of fruity thing.
Right, the sherbet sweetness and the Thin Mint GSC, that sounds like the powerhouse, the structure.
Exactly, that's the heavy lifter. Thin Mint GSC is complex. It brings in those classic OG genetics, Florida OG and that powerful kind of rubbery gas from the F1 Derb. So you get the sweet dessert from Sherbet, but it's balanced by this heavy OG fuel and density from the Thin Mint GSC. That blend, that was the real innovation.
And what's fascinating reading through this is how that specific mix created a terpene profile people just hadn't really hit before. It wasn't just earthy or just sweet. It was dense, creamy, and really distinctly candy forward.
Yeah.
And that just fundamentally changed what the market wanted.
Oh, totally. A complete paradigm shift. Before gelato, the market was mostly piney OGs, maybe some fruity hazes. Gelato just carved out this whole other space, that rich, creamy dessert thing.
Okay, and this is where it gets deeper than just the name gelato, moving into the actual genetic map. Because it didn't spread as just one thing, did it? It was these legendary numbered phenotypes, or phenos. And that's where maybe people get confused, thinking gelato is just gelato, but it's not.
Not at all, no. The phenos were crucial because there were distinct tools, especially for breeding. You had gelato number 33, that got the famous nickname Larry Bird, known for its striking look, dense structure, maybe a bit sweeter. But then you had number 41, known as Bacio, visually deeper, often more purple, and it carried more of that dense kind of OG-like fuel note.
Okay, so if I'm a grower or a breeder back then, I'm thinking maybe I use number 33, the Larry Bird, if I want to push that lighter, sweeter dessert angle. And maybe number 41, Bacio, if I need that structure, that heavier candy gas density.
That's precisely it. That's the functional difference. Number 41, the Bacio cut, it really became a workhorse for density and keeping that fuel note in future crosses. Foundational stuff. And number 33, well, that became the icon for the pure, irresistible flavor profile people loved.
And we should also mention how this was actually brought to market, right? Mario Guzman with Sherbinskis really built the brand identity around specific house cuts.
Yeah.
He took certain phenos and turned them into these globally recognized products.
Yes, exactly. Look at those official cuts: Bacio Gelato, which is G41, Mochi Gelato number 47, and Açaí Berry Gelato number 49. They weren't just random picks. It feels like a deliberate strategy, showing off the full range of what gelato could do. Bacio leaning into gas and cream, Mochi bringing unique colors, Açaí pushing subtle fruit notes. They even blended Bacio and Mochi to make Jello Gelato, really maximizing the line's versatility.
That sets us up perfectly for the next stage, the kids, the derivatives. Because if gelato was the template, its offspring basically became the modern market. Almost every major hype strain you see now traces back somehow to G33 or G41.
Right. Let's start with, well, one of the most interesting bits of lore in the sources, the Lemon Cherry Gelato, or LCG anomaly. LCG itself is basically Sunset Sherbet crossed with Girl Scout cookies again. So, the original parents recombined.
And the story goes, LCG actually just sprouted as Gelato 33 bagseed. Is that right?
Apparently so. And think about what that means for a second. A strain that's defining the current, next-gen candy era, driving huge brands, came from a random, spontaneous mutation out of a bag. It kind of shows the core genetics were so strong, so dominant, that even when they just randomly mixed again, they produced something commercially huge, something trend-setting. LCG kind of proved the gelato blueprint was just inherently solid.
Wow. That's genetic resilience right there. Okay, moving to maybe the most dominant descendant, we have to talk Runtz, the catalyst for the whole modern candy wave. The cross is Zkittlez X Gelato 33.
Yeah, Runtz really shifted things again because it managed to merge two huge flavor camps. Zkittlez brings that super aggressive, almost artificial tropical candy punch. But it was the Gelato 33 in there that gave it the creamy weight, the density. It rounded out the sharpness of the Skittles, made the whole profile feel kind of luxurious, modern.
So the G33 structure gave it backbone, turning that sharp tropical punch into like creamy candy. And boom, that explosion gave us all those branded cuts, white Runtz, pink Runtz, black Runtz. That really cemented the candy wave of the 2020s.
Exactly. And while Runtz was kicking off the candy craze, G33 was also busy creating a mainstay in the dessert gas world. Ice cream cake, or ICC. ICC is wedding cake crossed with Gelato 33.
Okay, wedding cake known for amazing structure, really dense buds. How does Gelato 33 build on that?
It injects that signature sweet, creamy finish and just tons of frost. Serious resin production. Breeders love ICC because it's like a genetic workhorse. It reliably passes on density, bag appeal, all the stuff the market wants, which is why it so quickly became a go-to parent for tons of other crosses, especially if you wanted to amp up both sweetness and trichome coverage.
Right. Okay, now we're getting into the really complex stuff, the breeding stables that fuse those dessert notes with modern gas, the green gas class, as you called it. And this is where we see that G41 cut, Bacio, really step up, right?
Absolutely. You can start with lines like Gelatti and Biscotti. Gelatti is gelato crossed with Biscotti. These lines seem engineered to really max out the fuel notes from that G41 base, but keep the creamy mouthfeel. This family gave us huge crosses like Georgia pie, apples, and bananas, showing gelato could totally handle the heavy structure of those modern OG descendants.
That combination points us straight to the Jealousy power tree. Jealousy, that's Gelato 41X Sherb BX1. This became like a defining cross for the next wave after the initial gelato explosion. What did Jealousy bring to the table that wasn't quite there before?
Jealousy just perfected the look. Extreme visual appeal. Dense, deep purple colors, crazy frost, amazing structure. It basically locked in the structure and density that the market was demanding, building on that G41 foundation.
Yeah.
And that stability, that reliable structure, let it parent the next generation of powerhouse strains.
Yeah, and you see that impact immediately in things like Permanent Marker, Temptation. They owe that deep structure, that bag appeal, straight to Jealousy.
And if Jealousy provided the structural backbone, then we have to talk about the ultimate utility player, the one that's like a terpene magnet. The one that can seamlessly blend almost anything. Jet Fuel Gelato, or JFG.
Okay, JFG. That's Jet Fuel Intense Gas Pine crossed with the Gelato Fino, usually 41 or 45. Why is this strain such a versatile tool for breeders? What makes it a magnet?
It just has this unique knack for stabilizing really diverse profiles. Where pure gas can sometimes be, a bit harsh on its own, JFG brings in those creamy, sweet, and sour notes from gelato to round out the intense fuel from the jet fuel parent. It's almost like it's engineered to bring together sweet, sour, and heavy gas into these modern flagships without losing density or structure.
Can you give us a clear example? How does JFG act like a bridge between profiles?
Okay, take Jokerz. Jokerz is white Runtz pure candy, right? Crossed with jet fuel gelato. JFG is the glue there. It anchors that Runtz candy profile to a solid gas foundation, gives it weight, intensity that the white Runtz alone might not have, or in something complex like first-class funk that's GMO, crossed with JFG. The JFG is needed to balance the heavy, savory, almost garlicky funk of GMO with a layer of that accessible dessert sweetness. It makes it work. It's kind of the invisible stabilizer in a lot of these complex modern crosses.
It really shows the whole revolution wasn't just, gelato's popular. It was about designing specific genetic tools, wasn't it? G41 for structure, G33 for flavor, JFG for stability and blending, all built on that original gelato core.
Yeah, and when you talk scale, the numbers are just, they're huge.
Yeah.
Sources we looked at suggest gelato has something like 180 direct descendants documented. Then the ice cream cake line, which is itself a G33 cross, has over 100 descendants. And the Runtz family, 75 or more major hybrids built off that cross.
Wow. So that's, nearly 400 specific commercially successful crosses built on one foundational pairing from back in 2014. The big picture here is pretty clear. Gelato's powerful, versatile genetics just span almost every modern dessert and cream gas strain you see today. It really is, like the source said, California's most impactful genetic export of the last decade.
Absolutely. It didn't just create a new flavor profile, it basically imposed a whole new standard on the market. It proved that complexity, creaminess, candy notes, they could all exist alongside real power and density.
So the key takeaway for you listening is probably this. Gelato wasn't just some fleeting trend. It was the essential DNA cross that literally set the flavor template for years. It proves that dominating in this fast-moving industry often isn't about inventing something totally out of the blue. It's more about the smart, targeted refinement of core, powerful genetics that just work.
And maybe that leaves you with something interesting to think about next time you encounter a new strain. If just the simple recombination of gelato's original parents, a bag seed mutation like LCG, could kick off the next big marketing wave, what does that suggest about the inherent, maybe untapped potential just sitting inside the basic building blocks of all these successful cultivars? How much is still left to be found just by chance, rather than purely by deliberate design?